Okay, get this. What if I told you there's a company out there that could be worth almost $2 billion, but it only has 2 employees? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie or maybe just some Silicon Valley fantasy, but this is a real story, one that completely blew up the tech world. And believe me, it is a wild one.
So let's just start with that first big number. $1.8 billion. That's the projected sales for 2026 for a company you've almost certainly never heard of. A company called Medvay.
And then there's the second number, 2. Just 2. That is the grand total of employees running this entire operation. You've got the founder and you've got his brother. That's it. The gap between those two numbers, it's just absolutely staggering, right?
And that, of course, leads us to the big question we're going to try and unpack here. How is this even possible? Is this actually the future of business, totally supercharged by AI? Or is there something else going on here?
So, when this story first hit the scene, it really was presented like this modern-day fairy tale, the ultimate proof of the AI dream. A story so perfect, it honestly sounds like it was cooked up as some kind of Silicon Valley fan fiction.
All right, so here's the rundown on Medvay. It was founded by a guy named Matthew Gallagher and his brother. They started with just 20 grand. That's it. And you're not going to believe this, they launched the whole thing in just 2 months. So what do? Well, they're a telehealth provider for those super popular GLP-1 weight loss drugs. And their supposed secret weapon? A whole bunch of AI tools. We're talking ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, the whole shebang. They used it for everything, from writing the code for the website to pumping out ad campaigns. And the growth? Well, it was just nuts. Look at this. They opened their doors in September 2024. A month later, October, they've got 300 customers. By November, 1,300. And by the end of 2025, they're projected to have 250,000 customers. This wasn't just, good growth. This was a straight-up explosion. And remember, this was all managed at the beginning by just one guy.
This whole thing looked like the direct fulfillment of that famous prediction from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He's the one who said that AI would eventually make it possible for a single person to build a billion-dollar company. And suddenly, here it was. It looked like that prediction was coming true right in front of our eyes.
But here's where it gets really, really interesting. The sheer efficiency. In 2025, Medvay was reportedly rocking a net profit margin over 16% with 2 people. Now compare that to a big public competitor like Hims & Hers. They had a margin of about 5.5% with over 2,400 employees. That is just an insane difference in productivity.
But just as fast as this story blew up, the bubble started to burst. A massive reality check came crashing down. And it came from the internet itself, especially the tech folks over on places like Hacker News and Reddit. They started digging in and asking some very, very tough questions.
And the skepticism wasn't subtle. It was immediate and it was blunt. Like this one comment from Hacker News that just nails the vibe. It said, "Cool, another scammy internet company preying on people's insecurities." Oof. That one sentence pretty much sums up the entire counter-narrative that started to build. And from there, people started finding all these little cracks in the story. First off, the company was using AI-generated before and after photos in its ads. You know the look. Critics pointed to that unnatural fuzziness that AI images have. Then people started calling the whole user experience super spammy. And on top of it all, the company got accused left and right of making straight-up false claims in its marketing.
And look, this wasn't just a bunch of angry people on the internet. This escalated. It got real when the company received an official warning letter from the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Yeah, that's when you know it's serious.
But the criticism actually went even deeper than that. It started to challenge the entire premise of the story, which begs the question, was Medvay even an AI company to begin with?
Yeah, this comment from Hacker News just gets right to the heart of it. It says, the opposite of an AI company. He is reselling the services of another filled with humans. And that's the core argument right there. The claim is that AI wasn't the actual service they were providing. It was just a tool being used for a very, very different business model.
So what is that business model then? Well, the critics are calling it an outsourced telehealth reseller. And it's pretty simple, actually. You basically build a super lean, super efficient marketing front end to get customers in the door. And then you just pass them off to other companies who do all the real work, all the heavy lifting.
And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. Who's actually doing the work here? The doctors prescribing the drugs? Nope, that's handled by third parties like CareValidate and OpenLoop Health. What about the pharmacies that fill the prescriptions? Same deal. The shipping, the logistics, the super important medical compliance, all of it outsourced. So what was Medvi really doing? Well, it turns out they were basically just a really, really good customer acquisition engine.
So, when you see a business model like this, it raises a massive question, doesn't it? Is any of this sustainable? Or is that big, shiny billion-dollar valuation just a complete house of cards? Let's really dig into the long-term risks here.
Okay, so both analysts and folks online have pretty much zeroed in on three huge risks. Number one, a regulatory crackdown. The company is playing in what a lot of people are calling a borderline illegal gray market. That's risky. Number two, supplier dependency. I mean, what happens if the partners doing all the actual work suddenly jack up their prices or, even worse, just cut them off completely? And number three, there's no moat. You know, that's the business term for a real competitive advantage. And this model, it seems incredibly easy for anyone to copy.
And this Reddit user they hit the nail on the head. They said the valuation seems shaky and probably unreasonable because there's no moat. And they're right. Think about it. Literally any competitor could throw up a similar website, sign deals with the same providers, and start fighting for the same customers tomorrow. There's nothing stopping them.
So let's pull all this together. What is the big takeaway? When you mash up the incredible AI dream with the kind of scammy reality, what does this whole Medvity story actually represent?
Well, what it looks like is a perfect case study for a brand new kind of business strategy. Some people are calling it the Vibe Code Playbook. And here's how it works. Step 1. Find a high-demand product that lives in a legal gray area. Step 2. Use AI to create a hyper-efficient marketing machine to get customers. Step 3. Outsource everything that's a core function. Step 4. Optimize your company to have as few employees as possible, maybe even none. And finally, Step 5. Scale like crazy, as fast as you possibly can, before the government or your competitors even know it hit them.
So when you boil it all down, this isn't really a story about building a traditional company, with real products and long-term lasting value. No, this is about something else. It's about spotting a temporary window of opportunity in the market, usually a loophole in the regulations, and just exploiting it with blinding speed and absolute efficiency.
And that really brings us to the final question, the big one we have to ask ourselves. Is Medvi a blueprint for the future? Is this the new way for super lean, AI-powered entrepreneurs to build empires? Or is it just a cautionary tale? A warning about what happens when you mix powerful technology with unregulated markets and all the ethical lines that get blurry along the way? I guess the answer really depends on your point of view, right? Whether you're the one celebrating the disruption or you're the one worried about what gets left behind.